Coming up on This Week in Google, Tom Krazit from Paid Content joins us to help us make a little more sense of this patent mess and see if there's a way out of it. Also, a Google Plus video that'll either make you laugh, cry, or possibly both. And goodbye to some of our Google Labs favorites. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com.
This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 107, recorded August 10th, 2011. Another one rides the plus. This episode of Twig is brought to you by Carbonite. Backing up the files on your PC or Mac is safe and easy with Carbonite. For a free trial plus 2 free months with purchase, go to carbonite.com and use the offer code TWIG. And by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly, all streamed directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit. It's time for Twig, This Week in Google, the show that covers Google, the cloud, and pretty much everything you can think about that goes on the internet. Jeff Jarvis and Leo Laporte both out this week. Leo's on jury duty, and Jeff is on an undercover secret spy mission that we can't talk about. But Gina Trapani is here from smarterware.org. I only said that, Gina, because I don't... Do you know where Jeff is? I have no idea.
He's on vacation in Florida, I believe.
That's the cover story. He's on vacation in Florida.
Even Jarvis takes a vacation every once in a while, which is heartening, you know, for the rest of us.
That's right. Actually, it really is.
It's very weird to be here without Jeff and Leo, but I am so psyched about the panel that we have today.
Well, thanks for not making up an excuse and not to be here.
I really have to go to, like, Alabama.
Sorry, I'm out.
Sorry.
No, we got some great folks joining us on the show today. Kevin Purdy, author of The Complete Android Guide, and a forthcoming book, right?
Yes, indeed. I am working on a book about Google+.
Excellent.
So for O'Reilly, and due out probably long after it should be, but you know, working on it now and enjoying it very much.
Also joining us, former CNETer. We worked at CNET together. Now working at Paid Content, covering mobile editor Tom Krazit. Hey, Tom.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So we thought we'd just confuse Gina and Kevin by having 2 Toms on the show as well.
Confusing me.
I don't know who I am anymore. Let's start off with your column that you wrote for Paid Content. Why Google is right yet short-sighted to complain about mobile patents. Give us a summary of this.
Well, you know, I think one of the biggest stories in mobile technology over the last 6 months or so has been these patents. You know, the way that both big companies are asserting them against other companies, mostly Android partners. But then also, you see the companies like Lodsys and, the patent trolls of the world, sort of making their voices heard as well. So I, was trying to sort of, this was also in the light of Microsoft and Google's little public spat that they had a couple weeks ago, where they had the, Google accused Microsoft of acting against, Android partners and, trying to compete in the courtroom and not the marketplace, and Microsoft fired back, and then Google fired back at that, and then it just sort of gets to be kind of silly at a while. But I think I was really wondering sort of how to express the fact that Google's right. The patent system is messed up. It's not, there's a lot of patents out there that shouldn't have been awarded in the first place, and it's hard for companies to sometimes know exactly how they're treading on these patents that shouldn't be out there. And then they're also silly to complain about this kind of thing because they have to go out and go get the same patents anyway. I mean, they're really complaining about the fact that they lost out on an opportunity to get patents that they then called bogus. So it's a weird dilemma for them. They know the system is messed up, but they have no choice but to play the game, during the weeks and months ahead.
Should they be spending more time lobbying the government trying to change patent law? It seems like that's what Eric Schmidt is supposed to be doing.
Well, that's, I guess, his job now. Yeah. I mean, I think they can do that. But I don't think it's pretty clear the government has a lot of things on its mind right now, and I don't know if patent reform is necessarily that high on that list these days. So, I think that Google should be doing as much as they can to try to highlight this issue, and I think that a lot of people are trying to highlight this issue as well. But, it's going to take a long time. I mean, there's a patent bill that's about to go through. Obama has said he would sign it, but it doesn't quite go far enough towards addressing a lot of these issues. And
It's already been passed in the Senate. The House just needs to be reconciled.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so, that will help in some ways and may make things worse in other ways.
Seems
So,
pretty toothless, yeah.
well, I mean, it really is. It doesn't get at the heart of the problem, which is the fact that a lot of these patents should have never been issued in the first place. That the patent office is hopelessly underwater with applications that grow every year. They don't have a ton of people working there. I think their budget for 2011 was what Google made in profits last quarter. So, you sort of get a sense of, where the priorities are in the government towards these things. And, I mean, Google can lobby and they can complain and they can raise a fuss and all of that. And people can go, yeah, you're right. But, it's going to take a lot more than complaining to actually get something done.
Tom, you pointed out that Google's in a really tough position with their IPO filing. I think you mentioned that they even said one of the lines they used was, "We are not a conventional company." And now they're being forced to fight this kind of conventional fight that Apple, Microsoft, and other firms are so used to fighting with big stockpiles of patents. Do you think that Google's just kind of pinched by its own image a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of those things in that founder's letter have come back to haunt them over the years. And it's, they had the best of intentions, of course, when they set out to do it. But, once you get to be a big company, like the size of Google, you don't have really a choice but to engage in a lot of things that, a 24-year-old Larry and Sergey probably would have, thought were pretty reprehensible. But there's just no choice. There's no choice for Google if it wants Android to continue to succeed, but to get involved with this mobile patent scheme. I mean, let's call it what it is. So, I think that it's going to be very interesting to see what Larry decides to do now that, it's pretty clear that they didn't address it as much over the last couple of years, and now that, he's running the show, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. They may wind up having to spend billions and billions of dollars to get patents that may not be valid, which is insane, but here we are.
Gina, what do you think? Yeah, go ahead.
It seems like the issue of patents has come up for independent developers and smaller developers in the last few years because we have so many platforms which you can release apps, and like the LODSIS issue. And I feel like Google's making very strong public statements about how broken the system is and what they're doing to try to protect consumers from the costs that could trickle down to them if they lose these battles. But I think they're trying to really rally the troops. I mean, I think there are a lot of developers who are much more aware than ever how broken the system is, and I think that that's part of their. I think that they have to both complain about the system but work within it to protect consumers. And if they position themselves as saying, we're trying to protect consumers and make it so that you don't have to pay an extra $20 or whatever it would be on the, the handset to buy all the licenses you need to in order to get Android, which is just now free, but also say these are bogus and this is broken and we need to redo this. I mean, I would love to see more initiatives like Peer to Patent, where patent applications are public for companies of interest for everyone to review and discuss and make recommendations about whether or not the application should be granted. I mean, the system just has to be overhauled, and the patent office can get companies and experts and people who work in these areas to offer support and their thoughts about whether or not a patent should be granted. I don't know what we do about the already granted bogus patents.
Earlier this week, Mark Cuban wrote a post saying, let's get rid of software patents and process patents particularly, and he thinks that will take the burden off the patent office, make things cheaper, encourage innovation. Is that the silver bullet? Is Cuban got the answer? I mean, it would be nice if it were that easy to do, but like there are legitimate patents. I mean, and this is part of the problem, is that in patenting a lot of these things, you don't necessarily know which ones are valid and which ones aren't until you litigate it, until you actually get into a courtroom and figure out what the claims cover, or the patent office re-examines it, which doesn't happen. The patents involved in the BlackBerry case, remember that way back when? Yeah, right.
NTP just this month won an appeal of the re-examination process for that. So that was 5 years ago or so, and they were first litigated 10 years ago. And the Patent Office may just get around to doing a final re-examination of them sometime later this year. It did 10 years. So it's kind of, it'd be nice to just throw everything out and start over, but that's not necessarily going to be in the best interest of, a lot of smaller companies who have legitimate innovations and patented them to try to protect their business. And, we need to figure out something protect those people as well. I don't know if it's copyright.
Well, do you think that there needs to be software patents then to protect software?
I mean, that's sort of the broader question.
Yeah.
It's like software is an art, and it needs to be protected in some way. You can't have, you don't want it to just be, open to anybody. I don't think anybody's really saying that. But how do you go about doing it? Do you have some sort of copyright system? Do you have some?
And there is a copyright system. That's what Cuban argues. Is copyright already protects you from people just imitating your stuff. So why do we need patents for things that are obvious?
Well, because not everything is obvious, right? I mean, the iPhone's obvious now. Was it obvious in 2006? Maybe it was, but Apple went out and changed, the way that we look at mobile technology. So, sometimes patents. This is the hard part: is that sometimes patents are justified, and sometimes they're not. And so how do you, I mean, I think the answer is better examination of patents in the first place, stronger review, stronger tests, actually look for prior art instead of, stamping the thing and throwing it in the next pile on your desk.
Kevin, Gina, and Jeff and I talked about this last week, the idea of software patents. What do you think about this? Well,
it's funny that if you read through Tom's article and also listen to the most recent This American Life episode, which was called When Patents Attack, it's a really heated war that nobody wants to be in. Engineers, the companies themselves, obviously, as Tom's article points out, the folks who work at the patent office don't want to be in that game anymore. It's a really heated issue around something that almost universally, most folks, except for maybe the rare small, innovator who does need a patent protection. It's a fight that nobody really wants to be in, but it's getting increasingly, violent and heated. It's a really strange story when you think about it.
More and more, I am of the opinion, and maybe I got swayed a little bit by Cuban's editorial, that where software is a mathematical equation, right? I mean, that's all software really is at base. It's a set of equations, and equations cannot be patented. I think there are maybe some exceptions to that where software could need a patent, but if we just kind of enshrine that and say the burden, the assumption is that software isn't patentable until you can show otherwise, that could solve a lot of problems. And I think we're seeing a couple of examples of why copyright and trademark might be all the protection you need. Apple won a ruling in Germany that blocks the Samsung Galaxy Tab from being sold anywhere in Europe except for the Netherlands, based on community design. So that's based on trademark. The look of it has nothing to do with patents. And they filed to target the Motorola Zoom in that same German court. Now this is the East Texas of Europe, this court. They're very friendly to plaintiffs in this sort of thing. But this is not patents. This is Apple saying, look, if it looks too much like our trademark, then they can't sell it. And again, it's preliminary injunction. It has yet to be determined fully in the courts, but it's an example of not needing patent law to help defend yourself.
One thing that really bugged me about that Samsung thing that I just have to point out is Samsung did not get a chance to defend itself against that order. They basically found out about it when it happened. So they didn't get a chance to argue their case, which is kind of insane to me. But, that sort of speaks to how, competing in different parts of the world with different standards for patent, or design or trademark or whatever can really complicate your business.
I think most people who looked at the Motorola Zoom and the iPad side by side would feel like it was a compliment to the Zoom to say it's too much like the iPad to exist in Germany. I mean, I like the Zoom's good for what it is, but I really, it almost feels like Apple shouldn't even say that in court. Like they shouldn't legally say that, like, oh yeah, this is a very similar product to our iPad 2. It seems strange.
Yeah, I can see the argument for the Tab, right, Gina, but maybe not the Zoom.
Right, not the Zoom. So we're talking about the hardware design, right? That's what we're talking about, not the software. Yeah, they're pretty different. I mean, can you? I don't know. I have trouble with that. Can you say that I'm gonna, we own the design for what's basically just a slab of touchscreen? I don't know. I mean, I guess that the Tab is a lot like the iPad. The shape is different. The weight is different. Where the camera. I mean, maybe I'm splitting hairs, but I suppose I can kind of see the similarity with the Tab. But the Zoom, absolutely not. That seems crazy.
Well, if I make a knockoff iPad, right, then we would think it's obvious. Like, oh, you can't make something that looks just like the iPad. So where do you draw the line?
I mean, if something would have to look just like the iPad, for me, it would have to be the same size, the same orientation with the one button in terms of hardware, and then the software would have to also look the same. I mean, I saw a skin, at one point we covered a story where it involved an Android skin that looked, I mean, it really looked like iOS, the software itself. I mean, so if you had those two things together, I would say, okay, this is clearly just mimicking every single little bit about it. But the Tab just seems like a good tablet with minimal, you know, buttons and hardware on it, and the hardware that does have the camera and the front-facing button, they're different than the iPad. Again, though, maybe I'm splitting hairs, and maybe I'm arguing, you know, for the thing that I just argued against, which is that patents are bogus and these very subtle differences don't count as innovations. I don't know.
Yeah, this is definitely a topic that's going to continue to be debated and acted upon, and it's one of those weird things where it feels like nobody who's involved in this, except maybe the companies like Lodsys that are strictly benefiting off of owning patents. Nobody really wants to be involved with this. It's sort of a necessary evil for business.
Well, I don't think Microsoft is too concerned about being involved with this. I mean, I think they know exactly what they're doing.
But they don't want to have a bunch of lawyers hired to constantly acquire patents and defend themselves, do they?
Why not?
Maybe.
They make enough money out. Yeah, all right. It's as long as it's a profitable business center, I guess they don't care.
Well, that's true. And it also sort of, you know, reinforces the fact that Microsoft can say that we continue to be an innovative company. And that's very important to Microsoft, to continue to be seen as a company that's on the forefront of computing, which is a charge that they have to defend themselves against quite a bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on into some Android news. Google is retiring Android App Inventor, but in Google fashion, open sourcing the code. Gina, have you been following this?
Yeah, I have. You know, it's sad, and I actually am of two minds about this. I mean, there are a lot of teachers that this app was very popular in education. There are a lot of high school teachers who are introducing students to app development using this app. I use this app. I made a Valentine app for my wife last February 14th. Ladies.
You used App Inventor?
I did.
Wow. Did you? Was it just because it was faster?
You know, I did it because I wanted to see what it was like, what the experience was like, and I thought it would just be cool to get, you know, a kitten to meow when you tap it, which is basically the Hello World example in App Inventor. And it was a really good. And now I develop Android apps like using Java with actual source code, so it was cool to see the WYSIWYG interface. And, you know, as a developer, I tend to look at these tools and think, these are cool, but the reality is you hit a wall. There's a point at which you just can't do the things that you can do if you're using raw code. All these frameworks and kind of pre-made WYSIWYG tools are great, but ultimately they're limited, and they're not pretty much not going to create an app that you're really going to release in the market and get great sales on. The community, you know, builder in me says that new developers who are interested in platforms need a quick win, right? They want to just work their way through a tutorial and have a Hello World working, and App Inventor is a great way to do that. So I'm sad that they're discontinuing it. I think it's great that it's going open source. There's no reason why someone can't take over this project and keep it going and have it still available. Google doesn't have to be the one taking care of it. The way I feel about it is if Google has a choice between allocating resources towards shipping Ice Cream Sandwich or maintaining App Inventor, give me Sandwich.
Well, and that's kind of what has been going on, right? Larry Page has said, let's focus.
Yep.
Let's get rid of some of these distractions that we've had. You know, it's been great to experiment and branch out and see what sticks, but it's time to focus in on stuff. And that is the other story here. Lance Whitney over at CNET reporting that Google trying to rush to get Ice Cream Sandwich out and beat iPhone 5. We still don't know when iPhone 5 is coming out. We know it's coming out in the fall. We know they're in beta 5 for it. iOS 5 is in beta, but we don't know anything about the hardware. So is it a good thing for Google to rush, or should they take their time and get it right?
They should take their time and get it right. It is the most important release of Android. I'm fine saying that and quote me on it. It's the most important release of Android they're going to do, because if you look at the widespread, you know, the number of different versions people could be running now, and if you look at the differences between Android 3 or 3.1 on the tablet and 2.2 or 2.3 on the phone, the Ice Cream Sandwich is meant to merge them together and give phones a little bit of the you know, sci-fi techie look of the tablets, and tablets a little bit more usability. So it's the most important release they're going to do, and I really don't think anyone's going to I don't feel like new versions of Android get enough press play or enough public attention that someone's going to base their decision on this. Like, if you know, everyone knows the iPhone, you know, obviously they'll argue in court that they've spent all this marketing time and effort making it a public brand. So if you know the iPhone, it doesn't seem like you're going to walk into a store and be like, I don't know, iPhone 5 or ice cream sandwich. It doesn't seem like that type of thing. Like, it doesn't seem like the public knows enough about versions that they need to get it out there in front of the iPhone.
But if ice cream sandwich gets out there first and has all of these great features, they may go into a store and say, oh, I want that Android phone that has X, Y, and Z.
What you mean to say is that when they get ice cream sandwich out there first on one phone, on one carrier through Best Buy.
Exactly. I mean, how long would it take for the phones out there to get ice cream sandwich? It could take.
It's going to take a while.
But that's the same as the iPhone's going to be on one phone. It's one phone, iPhone 5, available at Best Buy and Apple stores.
But it's the iPhone, and people.
And two of the U.S.'s biggest carriers, and it's.
Hence the rush.
This is a large store full of straw men we're talking about now.
Yeah.
But no, I think they really should take their time because if the rumors are right, it'll be coming out on the Nexus Prime, which is the next Samsung phone, and they should take their time to make sure that it's a well-crafted product that doesn't lend itself to arguments about this phone's available on this carrier with this version. Versus otherwise. They should really try to bring everything under the big tent and spend their time making it smooth.
The Android team should learn from past mistakes. Honeycomb was a rush job to compete with the iPad. Ice cream sandwich should not be a rush job to compete with the iPhone. It should just be a good job. That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, and ice cream sandwich, to me, the big advantage is that it's one operating system, tablet, and phone, and again, like you were saying, Kevin, just about ice cream sandwich in general. That's not something your average consumer is going to care one whit about when they walk into a store.
Well, if they could, if that average customer could, travel a few states over to visit their relatives and show their Android phones, and their phones looked roughly the same. Right now, if I have a Evo on Sprint and I show it to someone who's running, the Samsung TouchWiz interface, it doesn't look anything, to the average consumer, they look like two completely different phones. So if they can get that kind of platform consistency, that would be really nice. And that would actually give them a pretty good competitive standpoint.
GigaOM reporting on an interesting bug in Google+. It's kind of convoluted, but essentially there is a way, if you're sharing a computer with someone, that your IMs can end up in their Google+ account. And let me see if I can get this right.
Good luck.
Yeah, the way Janko Rutgers over at GigaOM explains it, let's say Peter logs into Gmail and G+, leaves both windows open on his computer, hands his computer to Mary. And then Mary she logs into her Gmail, but leaves his Google+ open, then closes the browser window she used and hands the computer back to Peter. Apparently, Google+, while it's sitting there in a window that Mary's not using, will notice that Mary logged into Google Talk when she was on Gmail and connect to Mary's IM. And then when those browser windows are closed, she'll hand that computer back to Peter. He'll find out that he's still logged into Mary's Google Talk account, but it's still his Google+ page because she never used the Google+ page. So in other words, the Gtalk account logs in on the Google+ page without logging him out of the Google+ page because you get two different elements there.
And then Richard walks in with an electromagnetic pulse device, and boom!
Steve is recording the whole thing over their shoulder.
And then Bob pops up and says, I'm the man in the middle. I stole all your data anyway.
So basically they're saying Google Talk floats between accounts if you change browsers tabs too quickly. your Google Talk could be tied to the wrong account and float from one browser tab to the other, basically.
If the short version goes out. But Wi-Fi has to go out, and the ping has to have not updated in the time that Wi-Fi came back in and logged out. It's a really obscure, it's a very specific. What are the odds?
It's not a widespread security vulnerability, and it's actually pretty easy to avoid. Which is, before you hand your computer over to somebody, close all of your windows and log out of it. I mean, not even just close all your windows. Log out of your account. I mean, you should be doing that anyway, right?
That's pretty basic security.
Yeah.
If you don't want someone to see what you're doing, don't hand your computer to them. I mean,
but one thing with Google Talk is that you can call people from it and you can do video chats with it. So you could, the only danger is that you could one of the dangers is you could prank call somebody from someone's Google Talk account.
Also, another
than...
thing is if Mary goes to a different computer and logs in, any IM Mary sends from a different device would get relayed to Peter's computer if he leaves her logged into his Google Talk. So
Peter and Mary don't like each other very much. They're very
not
deceptive.
after this, because he's going to find out all kinds of things he didn't know, and that's going to end their relationship.
I know.
Suddenly, suspicious spouses are rigging up this whole.
Here, just use my computer. Don't touch Google Plus, though.
And drop your Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah. Google spokesperson said that it looks like a rare bug but it is being addressed. So even if you're like one of the people out there that like, no, this is exactly the problem I face every day. Hopefully they'll fix it soon. Good news for Google and for Gmail. Search and email still the top activities, according to a Pew survey conducted in May. 92% of online adults use search engines to hunt for information on the web, and 59% do so on any given day. Not a big surprise here, right?
Not really. I mean, was Netflix and porn in the survey? I mean, this doesn't surprise me.
It's
but,
funny how those are never included. Yeah.
Buy a product, go to a social network, get news. Those are some of the other things showing up in the top. Yeah, they didn't say anything about Netflix and porn particularly.
The growth in the social network usage, though, I mean, is obviously what has everybody excited about all of that. I mean, it's mainstream now, and it really can't be ignored, and that's something Google is obviously addressing. But
and Google now in the game. Social network rising would have been a threat to Google in this story 6 months ago.
Well, they have a good product, but are they in the game? I mean, how many people? Facebook has what, 750 million people and counting. So
I didn't say they were winning the game.
At least they're in it now.
I mean, it's certainly, I mean, without a doubt, Google Plus is the best thing they've produced from a social standpoint ever. I mean, I think that's pretty non-controversial.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's canonical, yeah.
Yeah.
It ain't Buzz, and it ain't Wave, so, yeah.
So you're safe to write a book on it.
Oh, that's not nice.
No, knock on wood. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to curse you there.
Inside joke, people. Inside joke.
I'm sorry, Gina.
It's okay. It's a good punchline. It makes everybody laugh. It's good. I'm secure in myself.
Web developer and self-proclaimed happiness evangelist, I would like that job, Francois Buford, shared a new video, this was on Read Write Web, of a touch interface for Google's Chrome browser currently in development. So does this in some way imply that we get a Chrome OS tablet? Is this another piece of evidence for that?
I have always heard, every Googler I have ever talked to has said Chrome OS is for devices with a keyboard.
They've been pretty insistent about that, yeah.
Yeah, they've been pretty clear about this. I mean, this seems like an experimental thing. It's interesting that the demo video is using a mouse and not an actual finger. I don't know. This seems like kind of an experiment. I couldn't tell if Francois is a Googler or what. Like, how did he get this? I couldn't tell.
It seems Chromium related. It seems like he lives in the Chromium open source version of Chrome.
That would make sense, yeah.
That does make sense.
There's a lot of the mock-ups for Chrome OS when they first showed up on the web were very different than what Chrome is now, which is almost nothing. It's just a browser with tabs. The early mock-ups on the Chromium world showed front row style fades and a kind of big background and stuff like that, and it turned out totally different. So things that show up in the Chrome world don't necessarily always make it to market, so to speak.
Right, and just because it's showing up for Chrome browser doesn't mean it shows up for Chrome OS necessarily, right?
Right.
But it's not a bad idea. I mean, if there's going to be that much momentum behind tablets, then why not have a... I mean, if Google's vision of the world is that we all sort of go more towards this web OS concept anyway, so, you might as well see if you can make it work on a tablet.
It's actually Mike Harrington's dream that he had with the Crunchpad, the ill-gotten Crunchpad, a piece of glass that has a browser. Like, that's all he wanted, and this would be it, basically, if it really existed.
True. That is
You should have gotten a patent on that.
It feels like web apps are, in general, adapting a more touch-friendly interface. Like, even Google search results page were just recently sort of a little more spread out, no matter whether you're accessing it in a browser or on a tablet. So it just feels like the touch interface, like larger, easier to find, tap targets, are just sort of generally a design theme right now, which I think is definitely a good thing. So this seems like a Chromium experiment. I don't know if we're ever going to see this. Maybe they'll make a tablet that you can dual boot Chrome or Android.
Whoa.
For the Uber nerds.
Well, somebody could make that. They could make that right now if they wanted to, especially if they got a hold of this interface.
It's true.
It's not outside the realm of possibility. I just don't know if Google wants to have that kind of brand confusion. Which Google tablet should I buy? Is it the Android one? Is it the Chrome OS? Up to now, I think the reason that they have been so insistent of the separation is because they want to avoid that and say Chrome OS is a thing. It's a laptop of its own. We don't have Android laptops, at least none that we advertise and support officially, and we don't have Chrome OS tablets, and we're trying to keep that straight because otherwise it is pretty confusing.
It is, and I honestly don't think this will ever get to consumers. I wouldn't be surprised if this came out as a kind of fun, nerdy project.
Yeah.
Here, hack this open source version of Chromium onto your tab and see what it's like. But I very much doubt. Chrome OS it's a productivity machine, and honestly, to be productive, you need a full keyboard. The iPads and tablets in generally are consumption devices. They play games, you watch movies, that kind of thing. So I think this is cool, but I'd be very surprised if it went anywhere beyond just sort of a geeky open source project.
And actually, the Android browser on their tablets is pretty Chrome-like as it is. I mean, it's it's not exactly Chrome, but it's close to it. So it would be it seems like a weird thing to have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Other Chromebook news, though. 3 months after being promised at Google I/O, Netflix streaming comes to the Chromebook. And if you're wondering why didn't they have it, I watch Netflix on my Chrome browser. It's because the DRM implementation of Netflix required some tweaking in Chrome OS. But Samsung Series 5, Acer AC700, and the CR48s all can access Netflix. So what I'm wondering is, when you go onto Virgin America and you rent the Chromebook, can you use the GoGo Wireless to watch your Netflix?
I think it would be a little slow. Also, everybody on the plane would hate you.
Well, yeah, because everybody else's bandwidth would grind to a halt.
Right.
You'd think
just
media
so you can
companies
get
would
through
be falling,
Veronica Mars.
Right.
How did you know?
You'd think the media
Just took a
companies would be
shot.
falling all over themselves to do streaming on something like a Chromebook. I mean, you can't install anything on it, so you're always going to, the
Right.
problem of actually sharing files goes away. You think they'd really want to push that.
There are no files, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, I like that idea. Not for me, but I think that's true. You think that it would be Hulu too. I hope Hulu comes over to the Chromebook very soon. It's kind of there, but kind of wonky. It needs to be smoothed out quite a bit.
And then we've got this infographic from GigaOM in here that compares Netflix with Comcast, U.S. subscribers in the millions, and just shows visually how Netflix is catching up from Q109 through Q211 to the point where Netflix actually surpassed Comcast in U.S. subscribers.
It's amazing.
In Q2 2011, is that right?
It must have been the TWiT sponsorship.
It must have been Netflix.com/TWiT, where you get a 30-day free trial.
It definitely must
Seamless.
have been.
That was seamless.
That's the only thing I could think of that would explain it. No,
Sorry.
I honestly don't think that's what pushed it ahead. But yeah, it's sort of unbelievable. But yet this is why you have so much enmity against Netflix right now, especially from the cable companies.
Yep. But did you see those revenue numbers? That made me really sad.
Netflix had revenue of $2.16 billion in 2010 and $770 million in Q2 of 2011. So the revenue's going the wrong way.
Yes. Oh no, wait. It's 2010 in total, all 4 quarters.
Oh, wait a minute.
So
no, it's going the right way. You're right.
Yeah, that's
it's
just one quarter.
One
of their
quarter
year.
versus all of 2010. So
That is a poorly drawn infographic.
It is, because that
It is.
big film canister makes it look like, but it is just 1 quarter, 770 million. So, all right. They also
Okay.
have 61% of the digital movie market share.
That's amazing. Netflix is an amazing company. They're doing incredible. I mean, the service they provide is, well, all right. I'll stop making this sound like a commercial. I really do love Netflix.
You started it.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going to shut up now.
No, but yeah, I mean, and if you're curious, there's some curious numbers in these things as usual. 30% of all Netflix traffic is on a PlayStation 3. Versus 25% on an Xbox 360 and just about 20% on a PC. So people watching it on their televisions and watching it through PS3 more than Xbox 360, which is odd to me because PS3 and Wii went through that period where you had to order the disc before you could install it, and it was kind of a barrier, whereas Xbox just kind of got it natively in the OS update.
Yeah, that's crazy. Does that correspond with Xbox versus PS3 sales?
I don't
think
so.
Market share?
No. Yeah, and I just I'm eyeballing it, but Xbox has been leading the PS3 in sales for so much that I would not think that that was the case. I don't know what the install base numbers are, though. That's an interesting question. All right, let's say well, we sort of just took a break for a commercial, so let's just keep moving on. Netflix.com/twit, 30 days free. You heard it here first. Tell a friend. I just have a note about Google Plus that we must play this video from Eileen. And I haven't had a chance to actually view it, so I hope it's safe for work.
Not sure.
It's safe for work.
It's not. I think Gina has asked for
Oh, did
That was
Gina?
me,
Gina, did you put
actually.
this in? Okay.
I did.
So is there a setup to this, or should we just go in cold?
It's about Google Plus. It's Google Plus related. It's kind of a goofy video.
All right,
It'll
well,
be fun.
let's
Fun to
take a
listen
look
to
at
and
it.
watch.
Yeah, excellent. Here we go.
Check my email, got an invite to a website I don't know. Looked like Google Buzz at first sight, but my friend said that's a no. Why did we need another social network? Doesn't Facebook work alright? A new thing for me to learn. This could take all night. Damn it. What is this Google Plus?
At least you can sing.
I don't need Google Plus. There's another +1 and another +1. What is this Google Plus? Hey, what's this red thing here? Go away, Google Plus. They want me to put my friends in circles, but circles are for squares. Every day is like Sophie's Choice, trying to choose which ring goes where. But no parents or ex-boyfriends can get in without invites. And when I drunkenly post that he's cute, I can edit it later that night. Whoa. I kinda like Google Plus. Can't believe I'm on Google Plus. Oh, another hangout and another hangout. I dig my Google Plus. Hey, old high school friends, you can't join my Google Plus. Friends add me without me adding them. That feature's really nice. Randos, uglies, my part to learn. All these friends I've never liked. No one knows my circle name, so even good friends get handpicked. Did you make it into my main feed, or are you in my circle of... Oh, yeah.
Whoops.
I'm in love with Google Plus.
She means circle of people who cut,
I'm just
themselves
middle on
accidentally
Google
with a
Plus.
pin.
Here's another douchebag and another loser that didn't make my Google Plus. Hey, now I'm a that shit's pig. Thank you, Google Plus.
All right.
Now, who made that? Where'd that come from? Is that just like
I
a
don't
college
know.
humor type of thing?
I think it was
Google
just a
wishes
college
they made
thing.
it.
And
Somewhere Freddie
I'm
Mercury
sorry
is shaking
to-
his head.
Yeah, he is. He's
I
rolling
had to
over.
subject to all of that, but the names of her circles were just priceless. The mouth breathers, chromosomes, never really liked you anyway. I kind of like that. So thanks.
And then there was Jeff in the chat room was like, "Oh my God, this thing has been posted so many times on Google Plus."
Right.
Right.
I know on Google Plus I saw somebody say like, "This is the 11th time I've watched this."
Well, and that was my favorite part of the whole thing is when she's like, "You can't join my Google Plus."
Yeah. No parents and bosses yet. I like that too.
Yeah. That's good.
It captures a lot of things that are great about it at this early stage, especially in the comment editing, which is a really big thing.
Yes.
Yeah, and the fact that this is the experience of a lot of people. I think for all joking, this is sort of a lot of people are like, great, another social network. Why do I need this? They get caught up in it and then they start liking it. That seems to be the experience.
The red thing too was kind of there were
the little
good lines in there.
That was my favorite thing about Google Plus at first was the notifications because it meant I could access it without having to go to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. I mean, I think it's a thing that kind of really makes it sticky. I mean, you can have email notifications until the cows come home or whatever, but when you go to the Google search page or in any other Google service and you see that notification that you've got new stuff, you click on it. So it is that kind of thing that doesn't let you forget.
Google Labs has turned into the Hunger Games. Only one will survive at the end. Matt McGee has a post up on Search Engine Land. Google, as we mentioned earlier in the show, really focusing on things, getting rid of a lot of extraneous projects, and choosing winners and losers among lab projects. Google Books Ngram survives. That I wouldn't have guessed that one. That's the one that shows you the history of the use of a word throughout time. It's now an official part of Google Books.
I feel like I know Google products pretty well, And reading through this list, I realized how many labs things I just didn't know, or we talked about once and hadn't looked at again. I think this pairing now that they're doing is probably a good thing.
What does this do to 20% time?
That's a good question.
Like if they don't have as many ways to come up with stuff, or like to actually, like if you make something in your 20% time, you want to feel rewarded that you did it, right? And so you need to have it shown somewhere. So if they're paring down these projects, like what kind of incentive do you have to do something in your 20% time?
I wonder if they're asking the engineers, this is totally just speculation, I have no idea, but asking engineers to build upon existing platforms. So like build a Gmail Labs feature, which by the way, Gmail Labs is totally separate from Google Labs. That's alive and well and staying around. Or building an app that plugs into Google Apps, or it seems like they're building in the ability for developers to develop on top of existing products versus making something totally new. So I don't know. That might be a possibility. I wonder though if the 20% time has changed. We should get a Googler on here sometime and see if that has changed at all.
It's a good theory because they really have a strong culture of dog fooding at Google, so they could just roll that in. Although it changes the principle of 20% time, which was work on whatever you want.
Right,
so that we can discover new stuff.
Yeah, and Gmail was a 20% time project, and I know for every Gmail there are probably hundreds of 20% projects that either never made it out the door, or were an experiment, or were like null, or Search Wiki, or one of those products that never went anywhere. But Gmail was a pretty big win, so they certainly do want to keep that possibility of another Gmail kind of hatching, from an interested engineer open. At the same time, maybe it's just a matter of not keeping things around, longer, or, once, I don't know what the maintenance is for projects like this, but once the maintenance becomes more of a more tedious than the interest in it, just kill it off sooner.
Do you think that they should do you think that Larry Page has in mind to focus down, remove things, and then open it back up after a while? Is it going to be a cyclical thing?
It's kind of hard to do, right? I mean, there's a generation of Googlers that were raised in that culture, and so to put the brakes on that to a certain extent, I think is, at a time when they're already struggling to keep a lot of good people with, companies like Facebook and Twitter hiring very aggressively. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a bit of a risk, but I think it's probably necessary at the same time too. I mean, I think that, a little bit of focus for a company like Google is probably not a bad thing. It's just where you draw the line, right? How you balance it.
Sure.
We'll have to see what he does.
Or they could leave the 20% time and say, keep the taps flowing, and we won't have Google Labs anymore, but if we see something that you're working on that's really interesting, we'll grab it and actually we'll put more behind the stuff we pick.
Right.
I guess that's possible too. I think, well, Kevin, what do you think?
It's difficult to think about what the grading scale must be, because if you think about the average Google user who isn't as tied into it as perhaps we are all, or listeners in the show are, how many people ever tweak with their settings or labs in Google products, or try out, go to the settings and look really deep in and say like, oh look, I can do Gmail undo. It seems like if you don't have those kind of that whole lab section and blog posts announcing new goofy things that you're trying, it seems like it's harder to get awareness for them. So the whole kind of like iterative on top of products labs development, I think it feels like you'd have less awesome stuff coming out of it.
Yeah. I do think we should pour a little out for Script Converter, Breadcrumb, Google Talk Guru.
I've definitely never heard of several of these
Image
things.
Swirl, Sputnik, the JavaScript testing tool. You'll be sorely missed. And App Inventor for Android. We talked about that before, too.
By naming it Sputnik, they kind of set it up.
Yeah.
App Inventor was the one I think that was the most probably remarkable.
That's probably the most loved, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Huh. That's
Now,
relative.
One of those 20% time projects that gets a lot of attention is the driverless car, which we talked about last week was in an accident, human-caused accident. But apparently China recently debuted an autonomous vehicle that is made in partnership with China's First Auto Works and university researchers equipped with a Honqi HQ3 sedan. That can't be how that's pronounced. H-O-N-G-Q-I.
That can't be right.
That's not right. Honqi, maybe? Not much better.
Not much better.
Autonomous vehicle made a 154-mile. I've totally lost my place now. 154-mile journey on a freeway, busy freeway, from the Hunan province's capital of Changsha to Wuhan, the capital of the Hubei province. Made it in 3 hours and 20 minutes, driverless.
Because if you've looked at China's history with data and privacy policies over the last 5 years, the one thing you want is China driving your car for you. Really. I mean, obviously they've been so good with giving,
that's
not
worse than my
people's
Gina
lives. Well, oh yes, it was to China.
It's an entire country.
So who runs the car? Like what back end service is it uploading information back to?
Well, I don't know what, I guess we have the same question with the Google driverless car, but we have an idea of Google's platform. I don't know anything about the companies providing the platform for this.
There's got to be a backdoor for the government to get in there, though. There's just no way that China does things like that without, at least thinking through what it could allow them to do.
If you say the word Tiananmen Square, the car comes to a screeching halt.
You just can't go there. You can go everywhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't go actually to it.
You try to put it in navigation, and it just tries to reroute you to like a Starbucks or something. It has no idea.
Wouldn't you like to go to a fake Apple store instead?
Apple store. I just got back from China, and I noticed on every freeway and every highway there were cameras everywhere, like constantly snapping. So this just seems like a more efficient way to gather data about where every car is going in China.
Yeah,
So,
all jokes aside, I think driverless cars are something we desperately need as a society, because I really do believe that humans are probably the worst entity of any kind to be in charge of a car on the freeway, and I think this would actually improve traffic. It would improve safety, and so the fact that we have multiple entities researching this is a good thing, as long as research is shared and
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just a question of who. But I'm telling you, the lawsuit when some code error crashes a car for the first time. Oh boy.
It's inevitable.
Nevada State Legislature actually has a law about driverless cars on the books already. Yeah, just in case.
Thinking ahead.
Yeah.
No.
All right, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Carbonite. Unexpected computer disasters are going to happen. It's not something you want to hear, but it's something that's absolutely true. And so if you want to make sure that your data is safe, if you care about the data on your computer, if you don't care about the data on your computer, just fast forward right now, skip, go to the bathroom. But if you care about your data, you need to have a good data backup plan. And the way I recommend, and several people recommend, is to have your copy that's on your computer, a copy on a local storage drive that's separated from your computer but is local to you, and a copy in a remote location that is away from you. That way, if there's a fire or flood or other disaster in your locale, you still have your data backed up elsewhere. If there's a problem elsewhere, you've got a copy here. You got triple redundancy. Carbonite.com is my recommendation for that remote storage. It's absolutely safe, encrypted end to end. It backs up all of your files. Once you get the paid version, everything on your drive goes up into the cloud with no limits. It's easy to use. It just happens in the background. You can even check to prioritize it so that if you're doing some bandwidth intensive stuff, it doesn't get in your way. And you get your files back with just a few clicks. And the side benefit is you can access all of your files wherever you go on the web using your login. So unlimited backup of your PC and Mac is only $59 a year. You got a terabyte of stuff, $59 a year. That's 16 cents a day. Try it for free, though. You don't have to pay anything right now. You don't have to use a credit card. Go to Carbonite.com. and use the offer code, it's up on the screen actually, TWIG, T-W-I-G, and you'll get 2 months free with that offer code if you decide to buy the service. So try it for free, use the offer code TWIG to get in, then when you buy it, use that offer code to get 2 months for free, and be sure to sign up for the free trial from the homepage if you want to get those 2 months free. That's Carbonite.com, offer code TWIG. We thank them for their support of This Week in Google. Tony Wang is telling me that Hong Ki means red flag in Chinese.
Yay.
We still sure you're pronouncing that correctly?
No, I'm definitely... I don't know if I'm pronouncing. He didn't. I was hoping that he was telling me how to pronounce it properly, but
the name of the driverless car system in China is called Red Flag, which again, no cause for concern to anybody.
That's an international standard. The red flag means. All right. Facebook facial recognition software violates privacy laws in Germany. Facebook is now threatened with legal action over the recognition software that goes in and suggests when you tag a photo, hey, you might want to put a tag for Tom Krazit because this looks to be a picture of Tom Krazit. Germany says not allowing people to opt into that may violate the law, and it's up for review.
Not having Jeff here for a story about Germany and facial recognition is unfair.
Yeah,
really
I
unfair
was
to
gonna
Jeff.
say, I feel like I have to like channel Jeff here. Should I just like turn red, have my head explode, and like talk about how this is total hogwash? I think that's
Hyper-personal news stream, Gutenberg.
Gutenberg. What's that other one? Habermas.
Habermas.
Jürgen Habermas.
This is
Germany,
kinda...
no fan of you know, Google or Facebook's privacy policies. Let it be said. But you know, I think that certain people, if I talk to my friends and relatives, they would, and they had never seen it before, they would think it violates privacy laws. Just that folks who have been using Facebook for a while, I feel, are kind of inured to it by now. The whole, you know, like, well, they know everything about what I'm doing with my camera.
Is it really violating privacy laws, though? I mean, that's the question. What it's doing is what so much software out there can do already. There was a demonstration, I think, at DEF CON about how easy it is to determine all of this private information based on facial recognition software that's off the shelf. I think Google just bought PitPat, and you can use that to find out, you know, to recognize the face from a Facebook photo, and then find out. In one case, they were able to guess like the first 5 digits of the social security number. And that's based on location and stuff like that. But telling Facebook that you're violating privacy because you suggest to someone this person might be in this picture, and allowing that person to decide whether to tag it or not, that doesn't seem to be the worst violation to me.
You can upload images of people into Google now, and it'll return Google results for images that look like that person.
Is that a privacy violation?
I don't know, but I mean, it seems a little more, you know, if I can just take a picture of somebody on the street and upload that to Google and then find out who they are, like that's kind of weird.
Wait,
I mean, I don't, you know, I don't know if it's
live?
the image search project. They like 2 or 3 months ago. You can go to if you go to image search right now, you can upload a picture.
No kidding.
And it will return results of pictures that it believes are similar to that picture. And so
that's
like,
not image swirl. That's something else.
I don't think so. No. So you can. I tried it with a picture of myself just to see what would happen, and I mean, not that I'm like famous or anything, but it did return, you know, a fair amount of results.
So there's a little camera on the side, and then it allows you to either paste in an image URL or upload an image. So let's see. I'm going to try it out.
Be careful there.
I'm going to, yeah.
Now my understanding was that this returns web pages which contain that same image, but doesn't necessarily do facial recognition, which is a little different.
Well, pixels are pixels, though, right? I mean,
I think that it's. So, like, I just tried it with my own headshot, and it showed me a series of other people who are Caucasian with dark hair, including Ashton Kutcher. Because clearly Ashton and I look similar. But I don't know, let's try it.
All right.
So now, because I thought that they made a big deal about the fact that they had the capability of doing facial recognition, but they weren't because they felt like it was too...
oh, well, I picked a cartoon. I need to... picked a cartoon version of myself. That
doesn't violate your privacy. No.
That's not a fair test.
First world problems.
Yeah, right. All right, so I'm going to go into pictures. I'm going to find... I really need to organize my pictures.
Well, it's worth noting that in Germany, with a Street View debacle they had a while ago, what ended up happening is that, you know, folks in Blurmany, as it's now called, had an option at the end of all the legal wrangling. They have an option to blur their house on Street View. They had a way to get out of what, you know, some folks considered their invasive picture taking. But, you know, I guess maybe, if I'm guessing correctly, Germany's laws, you know, would want Facebook to give everybody that option. And so if you're friends with someone on Facebook and Facebook automatically tags them in your photos, you're not giving them that same kind of ability to, you know, blur themselves, hide themselves.
All right, so I uploaded my old CNET photo. It's a beardless photo of me from way back in the day. Here's what I got.
I don't think any of those people are you.
Oh, you don't have my screen anymore? Oh, you never had my screen. All right. Too bad.
I saw it.
Well,
Can't see it.
I don't think any of these people look like Tom. I can verify.
Tom Krazit can verify. None of these people
That one
look
lady,
like
I
me.
don't know, but I mean, yeah.
So does it? I mean, and did it say this is Tom Merritt, or did it just say this headshot?
No, it just says visually similar images, and it shows mostly white people.
But does it link to the page where those images are?
Yeah, then it goes. Yeah, there. That's the visually similar. He shows this guy. Must be the smile. Yeah, this guy.
So I guess it doesn't violate your privacy if it doesn't work. So
that's true. And then if you click on any of these, then it does go. It does take you to the normal image search results.
So you could match.
Yeah.
You know, you could if it worked and it found another picture of you somewhere, it could match it to that site, and then you find out the name and off you go. I mean,
this poor lady. Let's take her on. Speaking of, Germany's going to be after us pretty soon. All right. If you're mad about this, along with Germany, you can join the Anonymous protest November 5th, Guy Fawkes Day. Anonymous says they want to take it to the streets against Facebook, not a DDoS attack. They're asking people to go out into the streets anonymously. I guess you wear your Guy Fawkes mask. This is the typical anonymous video.
Citizens of the world, we are anonymous. We wish to get your attention, hoping you heed the warnings as follows. Your medium of communication you also dearly adore will be destroyed. If you're a willing activist or a guy who just wants to protect the freedom of information, then join the cause and kill Facebook for the sake of your own privacy. Facebook has been selling information to government agencies and giving clandestine access to information security firms so that
this is the typical plea, but they're asking everyone to go out on the streets on November 5th. Where are you going to be, Guy Fawkes Day, Gina?
I mean, go out on the streets and not be on Facebook. I don't.
You can't post anything to Facebook that day while you're on the street.
Point to your local Facebook constabulary and shake your fist angrily.
I think I'd rather just not use Facebook in general every day.
Now, Emil Protolinsky at ZDNet says that anonymous members may be looking to kill Facebook, but the larger hacktivist group does not appear to support their cause. So this may be there's a page that says Anonymous does not support killing Facebook on November 5th. So this may be a spinoff.
Divisions in the ranks of Anonymous.
Well, that's kind of the way Anonymous works. They don't have ranks. They have everything. It's all about chaos. They wouldn't be true to themselves if they didn't have divisions. That's just the way I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
You can go in whatever direction you want. Amazon, and get a lot of publicity for something that's actually been around for a while, an Amazon Kindle social network similar to Goodreads that lifts info from Facebook and Twitter and shares information about what you're reading, if you wish. I went over and looked at it, and all it has are the books that I have on my wish list at Amazon included in my to-read list, but nothing else. Even though I buy Kindle books, it hasn't pulled anything in. I'd have to change a setting. I'm just curious why this suddenly got a ton of attention.
Yeah, I just got an email this week from someone who was following me on Amazon Kindle, and I was confused and deleted it. But apparently this was it, and I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. Goodreads, just because of the Lifehacker book just kind of came out, so I've been watching alerts for it. And Goodreads is quite popular. It's not something that I use myself, but it gets tons of reviews and comments. So, and Amazon, this makes sense for Amazon. I really like the fact that the stuff that you highlight in Kindle books you can share on the web and you can keep on the web. That's really cool.
And
cool
I know
feature.
some people don't like it, but I like the fact that when you highlight something, it goes into a database, and then I can choose to have that on when I'm reading and see what other people have highlighted.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was actually kind of a cool experience. The first time I was reading a book and it's, it highlights a certain part of the book and says this was a really popular highlight. It surprised me because I'm not used to people being in the room with me while I'm reading a book. It's a very private thing. But then once I kind of get used to it, I was like, oh, this is cool. Kind of crowdsourcing the most interesting quotes from the book. And I use highlights extensively. I have a terrible memory. I really like being able to look back and say, oh yeah, that book and remember what happened. But so what is So what is the cause for this, the recent lift in this? I mean, did they do some sort of big launch announce? Or?
No, I think a blogger picked it up and pitched it as this is a secret social network that Amazon is hiding.
Well, they also just recently launched the HTML5 based what they call the cloud reader.
That's right.
It's Kindle on the cloud, and which basically it can run on any browser. I've seen people with really obscure phones saying that it works on their devices and tablets and phones.
Yeah, it works on Android phones and iPad, but not Android tablets or iPhones.
Right. So now you can literally get to your Kindle account from almost anywhere, and so maybe it's just getting a push because of that, because now it's out more in the open.
All right, let's finish up with a little bit about what's going on in London. This story is much bigger than a tech story, of course. Riots have been going on there for days. We've had folks from London, from Birmingham on the network talking about, that they're either blocks away or they got out of downtown from their job just ahead of riots going on. The big stories around this have been BlackBerry, RIM saying, we will cooperate with the police. Pretty much that's all they said. And then, of course, immediately their page got hacked because everyone assumed they were going to turn over all the BlackBerry Messenger text, which they can't if they're telling the truth. Everything is encrypted. And police using Flickr to identify London riot suspects. So they're taking camera pictures, posting them up on Flickr, and asking people to help identify folks for prosecution.
I mean, if it really was a scary, Big Brother world, I mean, everyone who has a smartphone, and has GPS on it, they could have been tracking everyone that way. They could say you were in this area on this night where we know rioting was happening. I mean, we're not there yet, thankfully, but you could learn a whole lot from someone in this situation with their smartphone.
Well, should they just upload these pictures to Google Image Search?
Well, it doesn't work.
Yeah, seriously.
Except it doesn't work. But this is where facial
gray-haired ladies go get arrested because they look like.
In all seriousness, this is the flip side of the coin, right? In Germany, they're like, a possible facial recognition thing that might tell you if someone's tagged in a photo, that's not allowed. But the Metropolitan Police, they can't recognize people so they're going and crowdsourcing it. Is that a privacy violation?
Are they asking people to post their cam phone pictures to Flickr, or they're just going into Flickr and seeing
No, it looks like they're taking pictures from the police surveillance cameras and putting them up on Flickr.
So they're crowdsourcing. I see. Interesting. And asking people to identify. I don't understand. Why don't they just upload to Facebook? Facebook will do the suggestion.
And then just tag it for them. I know. Come on, Met.
They did that in Vancouver, right, too, after the Stanley Cup Finals.
That's right. I think I'd forgotten about that.
Pictures to Flickr, or I forget the service. I think it was Flickr.
Yeah, those were cam pictures a lot of the times, though. I think they were out just asking for identification of people who in a picture were obviously, like holding up a television. They just
committing a crime in this picture.
We're looking for a white male, 5'6". Can't believe how hard it is to find parking in Tottenham.
Wearing a Canucks jersey. Oh, wait, no, you're talking about London, yeah. All right. Well, before we get out of here, let's get our tool tip. I don't know if we have a number. Kevin, do you have a number? You have a number? Okay, you've got us covered. Gina, we'll start with your tip. What do you got for us?
Sure. Gmail Labs, which, like I said, separate from Google Labs, Gmail Labs is still alive and well in your Gmail settings. It's got a new feature called Preview Pane. If you go into Gmail settings and Gmail Labs and enable Preview Pane, when you come back to your inbox, you get the opportunity to get a 3-paned view on your Gmail. So you can view your inbox and the list of labels, the list of messages, and then preview a message. So it makes it my first reaction was, this looks a lot like Outlook. 3-pane view, and you can do vertical or horizontal. And I lived with it a couple days. It's not exactly my cup of tea, but it's great for really wide screens and tablets. And the only thing is, apparently, it messes up multiple inboxes. So if you like multiple inboxes, those two don't play well together.
Good to know.
But with it enabled, there's a button on the top right-hand side that says no split, vertical split, or horizontal split. So you can turn it off turn it off and turn it on really easily. You don't have to go digging through your settings every time. So Preview Pane for Gmail.
Excellent. I like that. In fact, I might enable that. To be honest.
It's very Outlooky too for people who miss the Outlook feel in Gmail. It feels like that kind of.
I might get sentimental and put that on for the Outlook, and then enable the Google Labs thing that allows you to have the beta symbol back in Gmail. And I'll be like super nostalgic.
You're like living in the Labs world.
All right, Kevin Purdy with the Jarvis number. What do you got?
The Jarvis number. It is 20, and that is the percentage of respondents in a survey of about 500 people by Ogilvy and Mather, M-A-T-H-E-R, not sure how to say that.
Ogilvy Mather. I actually know this one. It's Mather.
Okay. Ogilvy and Mather.
I can't pronounce Hong-Ki, but I can pronounce Mather.
We only hold you to
They
English
asked 500 people online, who do you trust with mobile payments? And of those respondents, they gave them 11 providers they could choose from. About 20% said they would trust Google with their online payments, so basically relating to their Google Wallet initiative. And that's not a really high number, but then when you look at the other numbers, you realize, well, maybe the problem is that nobody trusts anybody with their purchasing things. Visa actually topped the list at 40%. Pretty low for a company that is the biggest credit card. Yeah. Facebook to the bottom with 12%, and Apple was about 23%, so just a little bit over Google, and at the just above Apple was the U.S. Postal Service. So all that from ZDNet's Google and Google blog, and it shows that maybe Google Wallet would not be all that well received, but then again, Facebook Wallet would be much worse. So.
And Apple, which already does process payments, running
right,
about the same as the Google right now.
Right, and just under the U.S. Postal Service. So,
Well, is that U.S. Postal Service with my cash or with my checks?
Yes. Do you trust the Postal Service if you rubber band cash and send it through the mail? Most people probably
and put it in a see-through envelope.
Do they have PayPal on this one?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I didn't see PayPal.
Yes, you can head over to the Google and Google blog and check out the whole thing with a link to the full survey.
All right, I have got a tool which I'm always worried that I'm doing something that has been done before, but in this case I actually don't really care because I think it's an important one. Recently there was a story about how some ISPs are actually redirecting your search terms to individual pages based on affiliates, right? So they take, like, for instance, Amazon has an affiliate program. Anybody can sign up for it unless you're in one of those states that has a tax dispute. And then Amazon doesn't know where you're using those links. So these ISPs are doing things where if someone types in a search term on a search engine, they'll redirect it to an Amazon affiliate link and try to collect money from that. There's a way to stop that, and it's to make sure that you're connecting to your search engines securely. Now, Google, by the way, has already complained to these ISPs and said, stop that. You don't get to do that, and the ISPs have stopped with Google, but it still works for Bing and Yahoo. So install HTTPS Everywhere, which you can get at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF.org/HTTPS-Everywhere. It is a Firefox plugin. But it is made in collaboration with the Tor project and the EFF, and it works for Google, Wikipedia, Twitter, Facebook, Bitly, GMX, WordPress, New York Times, PayPal, several others, and forces a secure connection every time you are connected to these sites. So it's just good practice to be securely connected, and I'd like to throw that out. Is that one that's been done before, do you know, Gina?
I don't think we've done that one in particular. We've definitely talked about using HTTPS in general when you can. And when it's an option, turn it on. It's worth the 1 millisecond of latency you might get with it,
and
which you're certainly not going to get with Google anyway. Yeah,
and the HTTPS Everywhere is a nice, when you, in case you forget, or you just don't want to have to type in, it'll force it to happen. So it's just a good fail-safe there. Hope that helps any. You're welcome to throw in a tip number or tool, Tom, but you don't have to. You're not an obligation.
I did not come prepared with a tip or a number.
That's fine. So. You can use that time to pimp paid content, though.
Well, sure. Thanks for having me on, Tom. And,
no, it's been great to have you.
You can find more of our stuff. We've been covering this mobile patents issue that we started off talking about this morning very in depth, and we will continue to do so. Both myself as the mobile editor and Joe Mullen, who is our legal reporter, who's been very in-depth on this. So you can check us out at paidcontent.org. And you can also find my stuff on moconews.net.
All right. You're still doing Moco News then?
I'm still doing it. Yeah.
Excellent. Good to have you, man. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you again.
Definitely.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been. Kevin Purdy, great to have you on the show as well. And let folks not only know about Complete Android, but the other book you were talking about as well.
Sure. So that's coming, in the near future from O'Reilly, a book on Google Plus as part of their Missing Manual series. Fervently working on it right now.
Both?
Well, not right now, but as soon as I close this Skype window. And in the meantime, though, Complete Android Guide, completeandroidguide.com, we've just released a Android app. which is basically our book and reformatted for the Android interface so that when you have a question about your Android phone, you can actually just pull up the app and look up the answer to it right there. So that's in the Android market. It's a little hard to find, mostly because the word Android is a very crowded market search.
Yeah, it makes sense, huh?
If you search the word complete Android, all one word, it pulls up first. And I also created a link at bit.ly/complete Android. Should take you right to our app in the market. And
bit.ly/Android. That's probably the best way, huh? Just
bit.ly/complete Android.
Complete Android, okay.
Yes, and it's 99 cents. It's my whole book that I spend months writing. So feel free to grab it, recommend it to folks who just got their phone and don't know what to do with it quite yet. We've got some great chapters in there about setting up your phone, setting up your email, stuff like that. So that's in the market, and CompleteAndroidGuide.com, and Google Plus book coming very soon.
And Gina Trapani, always good to be on with you. Smarterware.org. I've got my ThinkUp account up on my screen. If you want to take that, Eileen. This gives you a little look at what's going on. This is the kind of stats you get.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We just released beta 14 yesterday, like fresh off the packaging script.
Excellent.
Fresh out the build script. So check it out. It's thinkupapp.com. Beta 14 is our last beta. We're going into version 1.0 land soon in the next month or so. But thanks for having me, Tom. This is a really fun show. Both Toms, actually. Tom K, thank you for explaining patents to people who are confused by them, like me. And Kevin, it's always great to see you.
All right.
Tom starts off with a reference to The Wire, everybody. So it's a really great intro to the world of patent lawsuits and fights.
Google's coming.
Google's
Ain't got
coming.
no honey nut. I got some Omar lines in my head.
All right, thanks, everybody. Leo Laporte will be back on Twig in 2 weeks after his jury duties are finished. And next week, I, as Akhtar, will be hosting Twig, and Jeff Jarvis will be back. So thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time on Twig.
Great. Sorry. I just have to do that every once in a while.
It's good.
Now we
It's a
need
release.
billboards.